Hello and welcome to South First. I'm Anusha Ravisood and you're watching State of Play, our daily roundup of all things politics, policy, and human interest. What is the price a woman pays for standing up in support of a sexual assault survivor? Or for that matter, standing up against a very powerful perpetrator of sexual assault? You only need to see the story of these 6 nuns from Kerala who stood up in support of a sexual assault survivor, one among their own, and stood up against a perpetrator, a bishop, taking on the entire might of the church as it may. One of them very recently quit the convent life and returned to their family. But their years of struggle has been a story of grit, determination on their end, but on the other has been a story of marginalization, isolation, institutional silence from the same church that they dedicated their entire lives to. Sister Anupama was the latest one to leave the convent life and return to her family in Alappuzha. 6 weeks ago, she decided that she could not take this marginalization anymore. 6 nuns from the Syro-Malabar Catholic Church who publicly stood against former Bishop Franco, who's now acquitted in a rape case, but a challenge against his acquittal has been admitted in the Kerala High Court. So the court is still hearing this particular case. Although he was acquitted years ago, the nuns who fought against him, stood in protest after their demands, after their complaints, their case went unheard, staged protests, which was seen as embarrassing the church. These nuns have been facing ostracization, marginalization. They have been stripped of the church's support and have been increasingly pressured to leave their convent life. With half of them already having done so, 3 of these nuns have already quit their convent life. But Franco Mulakal, a person whose resignation was even accepted by the Vatican, he no longer is a bishop. After his acquittal, the Vatican accepted his resignation, but he continues to be associated with church activities, even holding private prayers. But these nuns have been shunted out. For those of you who may not know about this extremely infamous case, here is a quick refresher. In 2018, 6 nuns from the Jalandhar diocese of the powerful Syro-Malabar Catholic Church bravely stood up against Bishop Franco Mulakal, then who was the Bishop Emeritus of the diocese. He was accused of repeatedly raping one of the nuns. The ordeal began for the survivor in June 2018, as she recalls, and she accused Bishop Franco of abusing her on 13 different occasions between 2014 and 2016. When the survivor initially came out with her story, nobody supported her except her co-nuns, other sisters in the diocese who stood by her. Their complaints within the church's structure did not yield any results, forcing them to sit in public protest. Franco Mulakal was quickly arrested for rape, but even faster released on bail and was acquitted later by a lower court in Kerala. A petition against this acquittal has been admitted in the Kerala High Court. But even as this all happened, the Vatican accepted his resignation, but he continues to enjoy association with the church. These nuns decided to dedicate their lives to the church. All they wanted was to live a pious life full of piety, devotion, penance, and in prayer. Nuns who were hoping to live in the quiet of the church and the convent are now forced to live in bustling cities back with their homes, given that they were driven out of the feeling of a family, community, or service within the structure that they were part of. Take, for example, Sister Anupama, somebody who holds a degree in social work. Sister Anupama was forced to quit her convent life and now she works as a data entry operator. Just like it is for Sister Anupama and the survivor in this case, for others too, like Sister Nina Rose, Sister Josephine, Sister Alfie, Sister Anisita. For all of them, the story has been of institutional silence, marginalization, and forcible exile into obscurity. It happened little by little, but very evidently. Nothing about this was subtle. Following the verdict in the Franco Mulakal case, the nuns decided that they are going to continue living in the convent but keep raising their voice against any irregularity, any criminality. they vowed to keep their advocacy going. But over the last 3 years, at least three nuns, Sister Nina Rose, Sister Josephine, and Sister Anupama, have all renounced their nunhood and have left their congregation. After Sister Anupama and the two other nuns have left their convent, the Missionaries of Jesus convent in Kuruvilangad, only three remain, including the survivor, in the convent. But sources suggest that they now live in absolute isolation, struggling mentally with minimal resources, sometimes even scarce food. South First has done a detailed story. My colleague Sri Lakshmi Soman has put together a detailed story on what these sisters, what these nuns have been going through in the church, what compelled them, three of them at least, to leave the church. I insist that you read the story on the South First. What I'm bringing to you in this video is a very small part of what we have reported in detail. As part of our reportage, we also reached out to Sister Lucy, a key prominent figure in these protests in support of the survivor and against Bishop Franco, demanding justice for the survivor. And she speaks about the kind of treatment that these nuns were subjected to over the years, ever since they protested in support of the survivor. Sister Lucy says that these six nuns were removed from their regular duties and excluded from all community activities. They were completely isolated, even forced to eat in separate dining rooms. The convent authorities, along with subordinate sisters, stopped speaking to them entirely. The entire atmosphere turned hostile and hateful. These women, deeming themselves the brides of Christ, have dedicated their entire lives to church and service. At a time when they needed the church to be their biggest support, what they've received is simply ostracization, marginalization, hostility, and hate. Perhaps it is time for the community to come together to ensure these sisters, these nuns, find safety in what they deem is their home. The church is their home, and home is supposed to be a safe space. Until I come back to you with yet another episode of State of Play, do stay tuned to South First. Thank you so much for watching.